Hello and welcome to Super Respectable. It is February the 24th. My name is Tosh Rahman, and with me is my friend David Lewis. Hey, Dave.
Hey Tosh,
How's it
it's
going?
going. It's going. It's going.
It's going. It's going. It's already at the end of February. Time is flying.
Yeah, time is a funny thing. Sometimes it goes fast, sometimes it goes slow, and yeah, I don't know where we're at here. I've lost track of time. Um,
In your experience, as you've gotten older, has time sped up or slowed down for you?
well, last year, time became very relative. It felt like we were in March 2020 for the whole year.
Oh,
That was my feeling. It just felt like got stuck in the year in that particular month.
I agree.
And yeah, I do feel a bit of surprise that we're a few days away from the start of March. So yeah, I
I
don't know whether it's to do with my age, but yeah, I'm starting to take note of such things.
I was talking to our mutual friend Andrew Munsami the other day from
Oh.
college, and we were just talking about the fact that 15 years ago, which seemed like yesterday, we were in university, and now we all have partners. We Some of us have children, some of us are grown up, and it's like been a blink of an
Some of
eye.
us are grown up.
Well, I won't mention who and who not, but no, I'm joking. But that just seemed like yesterday. We all used to hang out, and now we got families, and we're living in different places in the world, and that I do agree that with COVID, the idea of time has kind of disintegrated. But generally speaking, I would say as the years add on, time seems to go quicker for me. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, we'll have to try and think of ways to slow it down, and maybe talk to NASA or
Yeah.
CERN or one of those people that can figure it out.
Anyways, what's happening in your life? Give us a quick recap. How's your MBA going? How's COVID going? How's your hair growth going? How?
Yeah, I'm glad it's a podcast and that most of our listeners are listening just to the audio version. But I've had some feedback about my hair, so that's nice. That's always
I'm
nice
just
to hear. Always great to hear from our listeners.
yeah.
So on that front, we received the good news that the hairdressers are opening up next week.
Yeah.
And I was saying to you before we started recording that they should prioritize on a needs basis, like the vaccine,
Yeah.
because I haven't had a haircut for a year,
Yeah.
and it's really out of control. And I should be kind of front of the queue
Yeah.
versus someone who just wants to like get a touch up and fix their
Yeah.
fade or
Yeah.
have their sideburns adjusted or whatever.
Yeah.
So I really need to be front of the queue, and I think it'll. Given the deluge of people who are booking their hair appointments, I probably won't get seen until May.
Yeah.
So you just have to get used to this sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then what else? MBA is very busy. It's a lot of reading.
Yeah.
It's unusual that I haven't met my classmates in person yet, but that's the way it is. But it's good. I'm learning a lot. It's a totally different way of learning.
Enjoyable.
It is. It's in our undergrad at Carleton, we didn't do so much group work. It was very much like you go read a bunch of stuff and then you write a paper about it, and then maybe you'll have a debate about it in class. But in business school, it's a lot more like team oriented projects and group assignments and discussions, which really is a change.
Do you like that? Are you a team player, or are you like a solo artist? Like, what's
I mean, I try to be a team player, but given the work that I've done in the past and the way of studying, it was very much like work on your own kind of thing. So it's a bit of a shock to the system, but I don't mind it. It's cool. You try and play to everybody's strengths, and everyone complements each other if all goes well. And if it all doesn't go well, then it just descends into name calling and late assignments.
hopefully, but at this point too, the teams that you're in, everyone's mature and like, no one's really that kind of selfish and self-oriented. Like everyone's got less energy anyway, so like a team dynamic might be more productive. And then you're at a point where I think you have experiences you can share. When you're an 18-year-old and you're working in a team, everyone's like not wanting to do work and like they hand it off to the smartest person in the
Yeah,
group, et cetera, et
like
cetera.
I read somewhere that men, their brains don't fully develop until they're like 25 or something,
Yeah,
which I've noticed. That's quite true. It must be true.
well,
So yeah, the executive MBA is a very different experience in studying, and yeah, generally speaking, everybody is much more mature, respectful, supportive, and all that sort of thing.
yeah. They have people
So
are dads and moms and workers and husbands
I'm
and
amazed, to
wives
be
and
honest, like the people who are doing it with kids, how they find the time on top of their 9 to 5 job. I don't know where they find the time to do it.
but are you finding that doing this EMBA, are you finding that it's like college or your master's where it was like kind of technical, or is it that like you're interested in the material so it doesn't even seem like school, or a combination of both, or none of the above?
Technical. Well, I never really found my studies to be that technical before. It was mostly just like concepts and theories and
Yeah.
words, which I like words. I know the best words, but yeah. So this is a lot more formulas and calculations, and a totally different side of my brain is being deployed here.
Yeah.
So
Well, I we'll have an EMBA update every couple of weeks from Dave until he finishes, because
yeah.
the whole super respectable audience, we're supporting you, Dave. We're rooting for you.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. And how are you? Tell me about life on the West Coast, the best coast.
It's good. The weather's been really nice. We've been going for walks a lot, which is good. It's kind of, I was telling my wife this yesterday. I was like, maybe we're going out too often. Like with, COVID
Yeah.
still exists, but we wear our masks because we do everything we have to do. But you don't even know that COVID exists. Though I read in the news the other day that the second and third variant are of concern here in Canada now. COVID's still rampant. We're not technically, I cannot get the vaccine until September. I think I'm on a list if I want to get it. Life's good. I told you I went to Home Depot with my dad for the first time a couple
Mm,
days ago,
that's
which
nice.
was fun. And then my wife and I were in the process of looking at houses to purchase to begin. So that's a completely new field I've never really dove into in my life. So I'm learning a lot about, this area, that area, and et cetera, et cetera. And
Well, you can
it's
build a house, go to Home Depot and make your own.
yeah, I guess I could do that too. It's
start
expensive where I live,
start
yeah, but
building in your parents' backyard.
yeah. So yeah, life's good. Like can't complain. Got a lot of things. It was my wife's birthday yesterday, so happy birthday
Oh,
to
happy
Halima.
birthday.
We went. We had a big breakfast in the morning, and then we went to this like kind of vegan fancy restaurant last night, and not bad at all.
Is that a thing? Like, is there those two concepts seem kind of
Yeah, I'd yeah, I guess it is a thing. It was the amount of money it hit my credit card. It was
okay.
very
Yeah.
fancy, but I
Yeah.
don't mind. We don't really we don't really do a lot of gifts generally in our family for birthdays. What we do is food, right? We'll go out and have an evening of it, or an afternoon, or a breakfast. Because I mean, yeah, we do gifts, but like we're not like, what are we going to get each other at this point, right? Everyone. So dinner has been a big thing for Halima and I for dinner, and this time we got to involve my parents and my sister. So we had it, and just on a side note, vegan food is, I'm not anti-vegan at all. I think it's very great, and I'm not a vegan myself, but I'll try everything once. Wasn't bad. Like I wouldn't like, not bad at all. Like some of the stuff I felt like wasn't great. Like but some of it was really good. I don't know what your experiences are with vegan food, but yeah.
I actually went to the oldest. They claim to be the oldest vegetarian restaurant in the world, which
No way.
probably they mean the oldest European vegetarian
Yeah,
restaurant in the world. Because I'd imagine
like India
places like
somewhere.
India, they would have a lot more of that.
Yeah,
But it was in Switzerland a few years ago, and it was amazing. It was
yeah,
really,
yeah.
I don't know. I just think with good vegetarian and vegan food, they have to go the extra mile to
Totally.
please the carnivores
Yeah,
because they complain so much about not being able to eat steak.
yeah.
I think the best part about that kind of food is when they don't try and make it taste like shrimp or
Yeah,
steak
yeah.
or chicken. I'm like, Don't do that
Agreed.
because you end up putting too much salt and weird stuff to make it taste that way. And the whole point is that you should try and make the vegetables do their own thing rather than
100%. You make, yeah, I think you nailed it right on the spot. You don't have to imitate me, just have to just do the best you can with the food you're trying to promote. Because like I found, like, in itself, I think you and I, we've talked about food and health a lot. In itself, like a fresh basket of produce is amazing, right? Like vegetables and fruits. Just promote that. You don't have to have like jackfruit spare ribs or like, you know what it is. But I do have to say one point is that I think the veggie burger has improved significantly in the last 20
totally.
years. Veggie burgers, like when we were in high school, tasted so gross. Like I don't know what they put in it and stuff, but it didn't taste like anything. And now you can get ones. I had one a couple of weeks ago. It actually tasted almost like beef or meat. I know that's contradictory to what I
Have you
said,
ever
but
had the Beyond
can,
Meat Burger, or have you tried those
I
things?
might have like at a restaurant or something. They're not. Are they good?
Never had it, but it
Oh,
looks
okay, okay, okay.
pretty interesting.
Yeah, yeah. I went to, so I live in Vancouver, which is a very hipster, like health conscious, socially
Mm.
oriented city. So there's a lot of vegan places, and like yeah, like some of the burgers are really good. Like I mean, like yesterday, I told my wife and my sister I didn't think their burger was that great because it kind of tasted weird to me. Like it tasted like not like like it tasted like there's something off with it. Like I knew something was off, but it doesn't have to taste like meat, but it does have to taste good. That's my whole thing. So like, yeah, man. I mean, like I went, I enjoyed it. It wasn't bad at all. So like,
But do you remember Subway? I don't know the last time you were at Subway was, but they always threw me off because they had this like veggie sandwich and they had these little bricks of like, I don't know what it was, but I'm like, you got to be a pretty desperate vegetarian to have that thing in your sandwich. I would rather just go like, I'll have the peppers, the onions, the pickles, the olives,
yeah,
all
yeah,
the rest of it, because I can pick those things out. But when they had this um, little brick of mashed together things,
yeah,
I
yeah,
want to be able to like identify what parts are involved in my
yeah.
uh,
I
food.
agree. I haven't gone to someone in a long time, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I think there wasn't a demand for it before, right? So I think now that more of the population are vegetarian oriented or vegan oriented, or even partially, I think that's why a lot of companies are doing it, and technology has changed. And I don't know about you, but generally speaking, I'm not like a huge carnivore either. So like I can eat beans. I think you and I are the same that we're very flexible with our food, right? Like we're very
Flexitarian.
easygoing.
That's
Yeah,
right.
very easygoing. And so it is what it is, like, So
Yeah.
that's life.
Wait, did
Uh,
you go to a restaurant? You were in a restaurant eating?
yeah. So we wore masks when we walked
Wow.
in. We were in a corner. We didn't have plexiglass next to the people sitting to us, but there was a good like 2 feet, 3 feet. But they had because we were in a corner, but everyone else
Mm.
had plexiglass between the things. So we've been going to restaurants and here and there, and we've been doing dine out. And I'm a little actually, in retrospect, I'm a little. It's because it's been a little too flexible, but things are open here. I kind of feel like COVID doesn't exist here in Vancouver. Like that's the vibe it is. But I'm going to be a little bit more cautious, generally speaking. But masks all the time, of course. Don't worry. Masks is a sanitization. No menus. All what do you call it? The
Oh,
little
the QR code?
QR code on your phone, etc., etc. So yeah, I guess we're doing
Yeah,
what
it's
we
been a
can.
really bad for the menu industry. They've been hit
Yeah,
hard.
that's the sub the sub industry within the restaurant industry.
Yeah,
So, yeah, so that's life, and today's a new day, right?
it's a new day.
It's a new day. It's my week to present. I'm actually super super excited. The idea came to me so late at night last night, but thankfully I was able to prep. Oh, I just on a side note, I just as a joke to all our listeners. So the people next to us were on a date yesterday at the thing. So it was literally me, my wife, my sister, my mom and dad all eavesdropping on the date as
Oh
they
no.
do it. And you know how like on a first date, you're trying to put your best self forward, talk blah blah. And like we were kind of betting within ourselves, do you think this will go to a second date or third date? And we mostly agreed that it's probably not. The guy was way too eager and overexcited, and the girl just did not seem into it. And he was very well dressed, and she just looked like she came off the street into the
Oh
restaurant.
no.
So
Were they young? Like
yeah,
a lot
late
younger than us?
no, not a lot. I would say late 20s, early 30s. That kind of seemed like the spot.
Okay.
And my sister thought that the guy was actually gay, so that might also be a factor in not working
Oh
out.
right. Okay.
But but that's always fun because as someone, you and I, we both have partners, and we're older in life, and like I think we've been through that whole process, and it's like I don't know how you feel about it, but I find it to be extremely stressful and anxiety prone, like the dating stage of things. And I know it's fun and stuff, but I'm so glad I don't have to do that anymore. I don't know what your thoughts are on that. Like it's so hard to go through months and months and months of putting your best self forward and like this and that and out, and then there's no relaxing part of that. I don't know what you think about that, but I'm just happy I don't have to do it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of skipped the online dating and Tinder stage that a lot of people are going through. So
Yeah,
I've observed people doing that, and it seems like kind of interesting, but also
it's
weird.
like that's why
A weird thing. It's like a video game for your
I, I
love life.
I told yeah I told Halima like uh I could never redo this. Like I'm not in a negative way or something. Like I am done. Like this is it. Like I will never go through that day. Like it's horrible for me. It's just I love what we have now as a married couple, and like we're comfortable, we're familiar, and like none of this stuff. But it's hard, man. Like you just have to go through date after date, explaining yourself, and be like, oh, what do you do? Like show interest in something you don't really care about, and like it's too stressful, man.
I think that's hard. I mean, I haven't really been on that many dates where it's just like essentially a blind date or someone you're just kind of met randomly and you meet up and have a like first time conversation with them.
Yeah,
I've had a handful of those like a long, long time ago, and I hated it. I just found it so forced and
yeah,
contrived,
yeah,
and I wanted to get the hell out of there,
yeah.
and I mostly did.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's hard, man. It's really difficult. Like to everyone out there who's gonna going through this process, like we feel you, man. Like it's and girls and gals and girls, right? So yeah, I
I
don't know.
think it's a really special time with the coronavirus. So here, there's not much stuff open, and so we had a really nice park near our place, and I go for walks there, and I see a lot of dates that are happening. I'm pretty sure they're just a lot of walking dates because there's nowhere else to go, and
Oh,
like you don't want to have a date at someone's house for the first time. That's kind of psycho.
yeah.
You want to be able to have like a safe space to run away if things don't go well. Um,
Just dive
so
into the pond or something. It's
yeah, well, that's why people go to bars and restaurants and things. So it's like there's people around, and if things don't go well, you just go off to the bathroom and or never come back. Um,
I think the whole dating, I know there's apps and Tinder and all that kind of stuff, which, we were not really like, it's not really how we grew up. But like the whole process of dating, I think needs to be disrupted and rechanged because it's very traditional and old minded. And just 100%, if you go to dinner and like this thing doesn't work out in the first 5, 10 minutes, you got to sit through an hour and a half of like uncomfortable conversations. If you go to a bar, it's the same thing with a drink. I mean, parks, I guess you can make it as long or as short as you wanted, but I think someone should come along and actually change the whole dynamic of how courtship works. That'd be kind of unique.
okay, that'd be a good startup.
This is my pick. Anyways, let's move topics. I am gonna be talking about the happiest place in the world, Disneyland.
Disneyland.
Have you been
Uh,
or world?
no,
Really?
which one's which? I get them mixed up.
Disneyland's in Los Angeles. Disney World's in Florida.
I think I was within range of Disney World. I was in Orlando,
Yeah, yeah.
but something got in the way. I'll have to check with my parents as to why we didn't go.
Yeah. So to those listeners, I'm sorry, Disneyland. The main one is in LA or in Anaheim, California, but
Yeah.
they have locations in Tokyo and Paris, Hong Kong. So any of them work for the sake of this story. So I've been to Disneyland 3 times, and I've been to Disney World
Three
once.
times.
We love Disney,
Whoa.
man. I'll even tell you a funny part is that when it's so expensive, but when we went the second time, my dad, it was me, my 2 sisters, and us. My dad bought these 4 day or 3 day park passes, so you could just go unlimited to the parks as much as you want. And we only used 3 days. We didn't use the fourth day, so we kept our tickets. 10 years later, we go back to Disneyland. That one day is still valid. We didn't have to pay.
That's why it's the happiest place. You felt very happy when that was accepted,
Happiest
right?
place, happiest place. And it's so funny. We went so the first 2 times I went as a kid, and the third time I went as an adult, and we finished Disneyland in one day as an adult, whereas with kids it took 3 days.
Wow.
You know. So yeah, it's a really interesting place. It's very kid oriented to everyone listening. As an adult, if you're going, there's a problem. I think I think children should be the main attractors as opposed to the kids.
So,
But
what brought you there as an adult?
so my sisters and I used to do this thing where we'd go on little like sibling trips, kind of in our,
Okay.
So our first trip was to California, and we had a blast. Like no parents, we're adults. So we stayed in nice hotels. We went to Disneyland. We went to like basketball games. I saw the Clippers. We saw celebrities and this and that, and we went to restaurants. So it's kind of like a bonding thing. So
Yeah.
LA
It's kind of like the time we went to Vegas together.
uh, that's another story, and I feel so bad. I think about that moment all the time. I always think like, what a stupid mistake I made. I should have gone with you guys. I'm so
We'll have a special guest episode where Andrew Moonsamy appears, and we'll talk about Las Vegas.
uh,
Sorry to interrupt.
no problem. Okay, so Disneyland is made by the Disney Corporation. It's there as a theme park to promote its movies and its different investments. It's been around for a long, long time. But I want to talk to you about some of the little secrets built into Disneyland. So
Oh,
I don't know if you know now, but there's some hardcore Disney fans who know where to go, to what to find, but the average goer doesn't really know. But I've always been fascinated with it, and I've actually picked up on some of the secrets the last time I went because I was prepped. So I won't go through all of them, but there are some unique ones, by the way. For example, Disneyland pumps different smells into different parts of the park, so the visitors associate those smells with Disney. So there's like an odor sense to the park. It's very, very strategic. There's a lot of feral cats that are live on the Disney property, and
good.
they're used as pest control. They're not just there; they're there to kind of get rid of vermin. So it's little cool little things. So let me talk about some of the ones that I think are the most interesting, and I'll do that. So if I talk about certain parts of the park, will you get it or
I've never been, and I'm operating from a kind of baseline of zero.
okay?
I don't really know
So
what goes on there.
what I'll do is when you enter Disneyland, we're going to go Disneyland Los Angeles because it's smaller. Disney World is huge. So Disneyland Los Angeles is actually split into two parks. There's
Mm.
Disneyland and then there's California Adventure. And they're both owned by Disney. They're literally right across the street
Okay.
from one another. And California Adventure is pretty much just like an updated version of Disneyland with some of the newer rides and stuff. But when you go, you can go to either park or you can go to both parks depending on your thing. And within each park, what they do is they have sections which are kind of thematic, right? So you have like New Orleans, Tomorrowland, which is where like Star Wars stuff is, and here and there. So you walk through the park. You can even get a map of Disneyland when you enter, so you know. And it's huge. We're talking like acres upon acres upon acres. There's even trains built inside of it, right? So if you were really energetic, you could probably walk the whole thing in a day, but be exhausted by night. But if you got kids, you got to take the train. Like it's impossible to walk with your kids. So okay, here's a really interesting thing. Inside of the New Orleans section, which is where like the haunted house is and like people dressed in kind of like there's like Mardi Gras parades and stuff. There's actually a secret members only club. It's called Club 33. It's hidden right in plain sight. It's a five-star restaurant, and it's where actually Walt
No.
Disney, yeah, Walt Disney kind of envisioned a quiet place to entertain corporate sponsors and special guests. So if you go, you can actually see the entrance on top of a building, and there's like a marble placemat on the ground. It says 33, but you can't just walk in. It's members only. There's a 14-year waiting list, and membership fees are $100,000.
What?
Yeah,
So the benefits of being a member is you get access to this little place, and you can eat nice food, and
yeah, and you're just in the company of other rich people who could pay
can you
100.
like leave your kids behind while you enjoy the
So
club while they get lost?
I don't think they'd want the kids there, but generally, I think it's mostly for kind of wining and dining people, and most celebrities who are Disney fanatics kind of have memberships there. As with most memberships to most clubs, I think it's pretty much like just kind of a place to be seen. So,
Yeah.
but it is kind of cool. It's there. And it doesn't sell any alcohol in the whole park except for this one place. So booze is not allowed anywhere on the park except inside Club 33. So yeah, it's a
I thought you
unique.
said it was the happiest place in the world. How is that possible?
Yeah, that's true.
How can you
So,
enjoy yourself? Okay.
So Club 33 is interesting. If next time you go to New Orleans and look for Club 33, and you
Okay,
might
I'll
get
write that down.
yeah, we'll post a couple of the highlights and stuff. What's another interesting one? Okay, so like I was saying at the beginning, Disneyland constantly pumps scents into the park, like the smell of fresh popcorn and baked goods on Main Street, which is the number one
Ooh.
street when you walk in. And the reason they do this is Disney Imagineers. These are the people who work for, like, who create all the rides and the Disney productions. They invented a smell-it-sire machine that can pump scents through hidden vents in the park. And like I said, this actually triggers people's memories with Disneyland. So like childhood nostalgia with popcorn, for example, so they can get people to like buy Disney products, come back to Disneyland, just to associate Disneyland with happy times. I find that somewhat manipulative, but I guess that's part of the park and the the attractions. It's not unlike what Las Vegas casinos do with pumping air into casinos and taking out windows so they can get you to continue to gamble. I guess it's not as harmful, but if you ever do to go to Disneyland, it does smell good in each part of the park, which is strange.
I wonder about that. Like, what? How do you make that kind of smell if they're all artificial smells?
I
Yeah.
I would guess that
What are
like
you breathing in?
yeah, that's 100% true, and it's huge. Like we're talking like I said, acres upon acres. So like it's very strategic where vents are placed, where it's coming from, which I'll get to. By the way, there's a whole lieu of tunnels underneath
So you've
Disneyland.
experienced this?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know. I just thought it was popcorn, to be honest. Like I didn't know it was like artificially. I only knew after the fact.
See, that
But
wouldn't make me happy because I'd be like, oh, there's a smell of popcorn and baked
uh,
bread, but where's the baked bread
well,
and popcorn?
I think we've seen how the sausage is made, so now we're like when we go in, we'll be like, where's that smell coming from? For most people, I think it's passive, right? So
Yeah, it's
they take it and it makes it smell good. So and you got to remember, Disneyland is a multi-trillion-dollar or billion-dollar corporation, and so like the whole business model of Disneyland is aimed at kids and creating childhood nostalgia, right? So if you go on a Disney cruise, if you go to Disneyland, if you watch a Disney movie or whatever it is, it's about creating memories that last for life. So it plays into it, right? On a side note, very much related, I watched Lion King yesterday, but the new animate, not the, what do you call it, the 3D version, the one that came
the
out,
live action
the live
or
action
the
one.
real live.
And it like I sat there and I watched it with my dad, and it completely brought me back to when I was like 8 years old and the cartoon version came out. So like that's what I think Disneyland aims for, and that's what they're trying to do with the parks. So yeah. Okay, here's a cool one. Disneyland has a very special rail train car dedicated to Lillian Disney, who is part of the Disney family, and it's only open to a select few guests every day. So if you get on board of this train, it doesn't move, but what it does is that it sits there, and you can have like a little, like take a couple pictures. You can kind of be in the special area that was named after Walt Disney's wife. So it is kind of interesting. Oh, sorry, correction. It goes around it doesn't go around the entire park. It goes for a certain section of the park. It does move. My apologies. My apologies. So if
That's
you're a
okay.
real, if you're a real, if you're a real hard diehard Disney fan, that might be something you're interested in as well. So yeah, I don't know if that's something you like or not,
Well,
but
where can you go to see Walt Disney's body?
well, in a graveyard. He's not. He's
I
not.
thought I thought I thought he froze himself.
And that's a theory out there. It's not in Disneyland. That would not be part of the Disneyland vibe. That would be too weird. He's like, I got it. Like, his body's like in one of the castles or something like that. That's
I don't know.
weird.
For me, it kind of gives off like North Korea,
Totally.
Soviet Union vibes. This whole thing, but there we
Yeah.
go.
Okay, here's a really cool one. Speaking of Walt Disney, so when you enter Disneyland, by the way, the main road, it's called Main Street, right? That kind of walks down to the castle, and then you can go on to the different sections. And so there's a pretend fire department on Main Street, but on top of the fire department is an apartment, and that's actually where Walt Disney used to work and host some of his guests when he came. And they say that the apartment is exactly the same as when Walt was alive. So that was kind of his like home base in Disneyland, which is kind of cool. I've always found it interesting because this guy Disney, I don't know the history behind it, but he started this corporation and it became big really quick. So they have a completely different campus, I think, where they do the actual business aspect of it. But he used to come to the park and check on it from time to time, and used to work from the park as well. And he had a little office, which was like an apartment just on the main street.
So what year are we talking? When did this whole Disneyland World thing
That's a great
kick
question.
off?
Disneyland opened in Los Angeles on July 17th, 1955.
Whoa.
I'm actually it's 160 acres, by the way, in Anaheim. Anaheim's about an hour outside of LA. And I think let me just ask, how long did it take to build Disneyland? I took a long. I started I have this book that I want to read about the making of Disneyland, which I haven't read, but took to build. It took uh, about a year and a half, a year and 1 day, and it only cost $17 million back in 1954.
Oh, that's all right.
Yeah, nowadays it'd be, I think Disneyland, they spend billions on sections of the park or maintenance and et cetera, et cetera. So 1954, $17 million for that version of the park. So not bad, eh? Disneyland is actually, by the way, I don't know if people know this or not, Disneyland's actually, all the parks are actually closed because of COVID. Disney took a huge hit because of closing, but they had to for public safety, except for Disney World, which they rented out to the NBA for the bubble back in last year when they were doing the finals and for the basketball. But I guess parks are not a great place to go, obviously, for COVID because it's too close quarters.
So now the feral cats are just running the show there.
Yeah. There's actually an interesting. They're taking the rides themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
There was a cool movie a couple years back called Saving Mr. Banks with Tom Hanks. He plays Disney, and he talks about how they got Mary Poppins made into a movie. But you get to see the park and like his
Tom
role
Hanks.
in it.
He's too good, eh? He plays Mr. Disney, then he plays Mr. Rogers and all these things. He's just too perfect.
So here's another thing: is that when you're walking down Main Street Disney, the first castle you see is the Sleeping Beauty castle. But here's something interesting: is the way they build it. They make it seem the way it's been built. It's very strategic because it makes it seem that it's bigger than it actually is. So they use something called forced perspective, which makes you think objects are taller than they really are. So the bricks on top of this the tower are actually smaller than the bricks at the bottom. This makes the tower look bigger. So like it plays with your eyes a little bit. So as you get closer and closer to it, you can actually tell that it's not that big, but from a distance, it looks like a real big castle. That's
like lots of French presidents.
Yeah. So like it's like I said, you got to remember there are hundreds of thousands of people who work at this corporation, and they're very smart. So the whole idea of the park is to come and spend money and and enjoy your childhood there. So there's been a lot of thought put into how things work, you know. So so that's a very interesting part of the aspect. Another thing is that what Disney has been doing recently that's interesting is that under its old CEO, Bob Iger, they've been purchasing large amounts of corporations and other movie studios and entertainment industries. So they bought Lucasfilms, they bought Pixar, they bought Fox, or a section of Fox. I forgot the other ones. And what they've been doing is they're trying to create this conglomerate where they incorporate all these aspects of movie and TV history within their corporation. And then once they own a part of that, they start building like a representation of that in their park. So Star Wars is a huge thing that has been built into the Disney franchise.
Nice.
So yeah, I think I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I think you love Star Wars too, right? You're
huge. Yeah.
So you can go into the Millennium Falcon now in Tomorrowland or whatever it is, right? So if you get to go to Disney recently, you'll be able to experience all these new rides that weren't there 10, 15, 20 years ago because they've just been acquired, the rights to. So Disney's taking over in that regard. Okay, another cool one is where is it? So the haunted castle. I don't know if I know you've never been, but have you heard of it, or the haunted house?
Nope.
Okay, so this is it's a really cool. I actually think it's a little too scary for kids, by the way, but whatever. You go into this massive house.
It doesn't sound very happy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's part. They made a movie out of it, but they actually had a ride for. So you go into this haunted house, and then you know, it's typical haunted, like pictures are moving and blah blah blah, and you sit on these little what do you call them, like seats, and it goes through this entire mansion, and it's just been built with like ghosts, and it's not scary, but it's clearly, I don't think it's that kid friendly. It's actually dark, so you don't get to see anything. But if you ever get to turn the lights on and see it, that it's like a completely functioning like park within a house, and there's elevators and everything built into it. But because of perspective, it makes it seem so well hidden. It's actually really, really unique and interesting in the sense that like you have thousands of mechanics and engineers working on these things daily to make sure they're functioning and they're good. But the way it's been built is that it looks smaller than it really is, and it's really, really unique. So they have this entire haunted house which is completely functioning, but it makes it there's like levels to it and there's elevators and there's this whole mechanical behind it. So Disney does a really good job in terms of building rides and building attractions. And I don't. On a side note, like building an attraction must be one of the most entertaining things you can do. I don't. I think as an engineer.
Yeah, I was going to say that's I've seen some of those. I guess it's Discovery Channel where they show roller coasters being designed and made by engineers, and it's like I think they get like an animator or an architect or someone to like dream up the idea, and then the
Yeah.
engineer goes, "Okay, no, that's just not possible. We can't like make people do that, and people can only withstand being flipped around 800
Yeah.
times."
Yeah. Yeah. I yeah. I guess
Do they
so.
have
And
those kind of rides at Disneyland, or is it just too
they do.
beyond the scope of
They
10
have
year old?
they have roller coasters and ups and downs and speedy ones. I don't really go on them anymore. I don't really like them, but they do. I mean, you can't you. So the thing with Disneyland is that if you go during peak season, it's a nightmare. You have to wait hours for just a single ride. It's hot because it's Los Angeles. There's hundreds of thousands of people in this park. If you go on off season, you might get a better deal, like not wait and this and that. So and then you have to everything is based on your height, right? Because so if you have kids who are under a certain height, they can't go on certain rides. If they're taller, then they can. Those ones that you speak of are usually the ones that like the teenagers would go on, or late like 9 years old, 9 year old or 10 year old, depending on their height. So they have a range of everything. But I think if you've got like infants or kids, you probably want to go on like the slow Dumbo rides or like
Yeah.
the boat cruises or whatnot. Um,
So I'm not
yeah,
sure. I'm not sure how happy some kids would be if they're waiting in line the whole time. I mean, maybe you've built up their excitement a lot around this place, and then
yeah.
it all comes crashing down when they're in line for hours on end.
Yeah, no, I get it. And so what Disneyland also does, by the way, is that like if you go, you can buy your normal tickets, and then you can buy one that gives you special access to the rides without waiting. You get a special line. So like, I mean, obviously it's like another form of income, right? And so like some people will do it. And if you're like a really like high, big, like rich person or whatever, then you can kind of like do whatever you want to do. I guess they can get you through VIP access and stuff. But going to Disneyland in the middle of summer is the worst thing you can do. I think it's horrible and it's overpriced and it's crowded and it's hot. So like I would highly recommend not doing that if you ever have kids. But yeah. Okay, I got a couple more which I think you'll like. Doritos were invented in Disneyland, the famous chip.
No,
Yeah, Frito Lay's, which is the owner of Doritos, they actually used to own a restaurant in Disneyland when the park opened in 1955. And instead of throwing away stale tortillas, they came up with a way of repurposing them, and so they flavored them and fried them, and thus we have our delicious snack, Doritos.
really,
Yeah, interesting, huh? I don't know if you're a Dorito fan or not, but
huge fan.
I love Doritos.
It's best not to have them around because I'll just annihilate the whole packet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can't buy a single pack of gum in Disneyland because they don't want to have you throw it out. So they want it for cleanliness. Gum is not sold anywhere in Disneyland.
Can you buy some cigarettes?
Yeah, probably. I
Like your kids are stressing you out. There's people everywhere. You want to have a smoke to relax.
yeah.
You can't drink.
You don't drink except for in Club 33.
Mhm.
You can't drink, and yeah. But actually, you probably can't buy cigarettes. I think it goes against the family friendly. But with all those kids and all that stuff, like, what would you do? I guess you go crazy, right? There are sections I think that like you could probably like when you go with kids, there's a section in Disneyland like if you have really infant kids and you need babysitting, you could probably find. I think I remember reading that there's a babysitting section. But why would you leave your kids there? I don't know. But it's weird. Yeah. Um, yeah. Okay. So here's one thing. I've had this idea for like 20 years. They should make a movie about people being stuck in Disneyland overnight with like hostages or terrorists or getting or running away from people. And I think that'd be a fun movie to watch for kids. But I started like because of that idea, I started Googling and seeing. So you can rent Disneyland. They can close the park for you for private
No
events.
way.
Yeah, but it's extremely rare. Elizabeth Taylor in 1992 had a private birthday in Disneyland and invited hundreds of celebrities and friends. No outsiders were allowed, no press were allowed. But the park did tape the celebrations and broadcasted it on television. But no one has explained, like I said, for sure how much it cost. But the estimate is that in 1992, uh, um, it was about $8,000 to rent out the entire park after hours. I'm assuming that's per hour, but this is 1992. That's 30 years ago.
Eight
So
eight
8,000.
thousand.
But
No, that's
I
not
don't
that
think
much.
I don't think that number is correct. By the way, that's that. But you can corporations are allowed to rent it out. Other people do rent it out. Disneyland closes at 11 p.m. every day. So if you rent it out, usually I think most people are renting it out after hours, 11 to 2, 11 to 3. So because you don't want to hurt business, right? People have weddings at Disneyland. Disneyland offers like resort like packages for weddings. I don't know if you'd want to get married at Disneyland, but Disney, I think, it has been very active in being able to kind of cater to their clients, and especially if you've got funds, you can do it, man. Would you want to rent out Disneyland?
Uh, no, I don't think I ever want to go to these places. I don't think this appeals to me, and um, no, I wouldn't rent it out or spend any extra money going there or doing anything there.
Oh,
There's just too many people. I mean, I spent time at some theme parks, but I really don't go out of my way for this kind of thing. It's not my cup of tea. I went.
oh,
Do you know in Montreal they have La Ronde, their theme park?
I've never
So
been, but
because in Toronto there's Wonderland, which I've
Wonderland.
never. Have you been there?
No, have you?
No. I
No.
mean, it was kind of a thing in high school and maybe a bit in university. People wanted to go there.
Yeah.
I just, I just couldn't stand it because in Ottawa they had the X, which was the best approximation of these places. It was like a traveling fair, and it was fun to kind of like walk around and see what's going on. But I'm just not really a big fan of lining up to be going on these like spinning teacups and things like that.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I would never go back to Disneyland now unless it was for my kids, right? And even then, I would try to do what's most convenient for you. But like, I don't like lining up for things generally, and especially in the heat and it's the way it's built. But remember, like most people, they're like they get a 2 weeks off during the year. They got to entertain the kids. Disneyland's a big, their kids have been watching Disney movies their whole life. This is a once in a lifetime kind of trip. So they put in a couple grand or whatever it costs, right, to go. And then it's for the kids, right? Like I'm sure our parents did a lot of things for us that we that they hated to do, but yeah, it's pricey, man.
Yeah.
I
What
don't.
about the staff? Like, aren't the staff, from what I hear, they're always meant to be
Mhm.
happy, smiling, always saying the right things.
Yeah, uh,
But is there like security in the background, like ready to tackle someone if they start misbehaving? Have
I'm
you seen
sure
any kind of incidents?
I haven't seen anything, but I'm sure they do have a bunch of security around, probably in like Mickey Mouse costumes or whatever it is.
Because kids are always up to no good, right?
Always,
So
always up to no
there
good,
might be
100%.
some funky business going on, which requires not Mickey Mouse, but one of the other characters to get involved.
Yeah, I mean, so I definitely agree. I think there's a lot of things unseen to the eye in Disneyland. I was actually going to say there's actually, so this is funny. So so Walt Disney was this like he needed like he was very like clear on what he wanted when he built his Disney empire, including Disneyland, Disney World, etc. And there's a story that one day he was walking around the parks and he saw one of the people who work at Disneyland, one of the actors dressed as a cowboy going from one part of the section to the other part of the park, and it didn't match. He was like dressed as a cowboy going from like some space section to the cowboy section or vice versa, right? And he didn't like the image of it, so he actually designed an entire set of tunnels underneath Disney World. This is so the reason for this is that, so if you ever go to Disney World, there's actually a little city underneath what you see. And what it is there's cafeterias, there's hair salons, there's wardrobe, there's everything like that. There's offices, and this is where he wanted the people who worked at the parks to travel through and work on, as opposed to the surface level. So you can actually take a tour of the bottom part, by the way, if you pay extra money. They'll show you part of the system. So like it's a very comprehensive, detail oriented structure. So like this is a place where you're spending hundreds of dollars for over a couple of days to entertain your kids, and it has to be perfect for you. I mean, there are definitely areas of all theme parks for improvement, I think. There's a lot of risk in these things, by the way. Like you got to maintain these rides for people's safety daily, right? I was actually at Disneyland and an earthquake happened, and everything got shut down for about like, I
Oh
don't know,
man.
30, 40 minutes before reopening because the engineers need to check. And I was sitting with my sisters on that trip. We were sitting, it was so hot. We were sitting like having a Coke or whatever it was. And I remember this image so clearly. They were having a High School Musical parade, from the movie High School Musical. So they were doing it and something started shaking, and I was like, and it was slight, and I was like, is that the parade going by, or is that like the ground shaking from an earthquake? And then it was an earthquake, and so they like everything had to be shut down for a little bit as the engineers just had to check the safety of the rides, and then they opened up again. So like these parks, I understand, like they have to take a lot of liability on to operate, right? But Disney, like, we're not talking about a small corporation. We're talking about like I said, hundreds of thousands of people working for a multi-billion-dollar thing. They have infrastructure in place, and Disneyland, I'm sure the parks are a huge, huge income maker for the company, right? Across the world, they must make millions, if not billions, from the parks each year.
Yeah, but I guess they need to have all these bells and whistles add-ons to pay the club membership and the VIP and all that to make every dollar, because there would be a lot of maintenance costs and overheads. Thinking with my MBA brain
Of
that I
course.
have it
Yeah,
recently
yeah.
inherited.
Electricity just alone must cost millions a day, like it's a huge park. But
Yeah. Is there
it,
a ranking of like which is the best out of like the Hong Kong, Paris, Japan?
that's a great question.
Because
I've
the closest one here is
Paris.
Disneyland Paris,
Yeah.
which it was always within range, and they have a Eurostar from like London. You can go basically like London, skip Paris, and go straight to the
Is
to the
is
Disney World.
is Disneyland Paris outside of Paris, or is it in
Yeah,
Paris
I think
proper? Oh.
no, I think it's quite far away. I think Paris is too big to handle a Disneyland like
And same
that.
with Hong Kong. When I was in Hong Kong, our friend Marcus, who was on our number 3 episode, he told me Disneyland's like, I saw it on the map too. It was like outside of Hong Kong proper, but like, it's too expensive and I didn't want to go anyway. So like, well, we didn't want to go. So I would guess LA is probably the best one just because it's the original one. But the biggest one, by the way, Disney World is actually like 4 or 5 different parks or 4 or 5 different sections. So it's bigger than Los Angeles, and it's
And there's
huge.
the Epcot Center, isn't that
Epcot's
Florida?
Epcot's a section, one of the sections inside Disney World. It's all futuristic and like country oriented or something like that.
Mhm.
I went. So like, yeah, I think with all theme parks, it's a good money making machine and there's a good aspect to it, but it must gotta take a lot of maintenance and logistics just to get it operating. So you get
Are there like are there elements within these parks that are from the original and they've maintained to this day?
Yeah, for sure. So, by the way, when you enter the park down Main Street, walk with me, Dave, down Main Street.
I'll try.
At the end of Main Street, there's a huge, I don't know what you call it, like a water pond structure with the castle. There's actually a statue of Walt Disney holding Mickey Mouse's hand. I think that's been there since the beginning. I think a lot of the, like the castles and stuff, the original structures are there, but over time they've had to renovate, because it's old. And then I think Main Street's still in its original form, but with modern renovations. So I think they kept building on it. But of course, some of the newer rides need new technologies that didn't exist in 1954, 1955. So they're upgrading and they're building again. But I think and also they're expanding, right? Like I said, California Adventures, which opened like 20 years ago or 1998 or something like that, that was a completely new park right across the street, right? It used to be a parking lot before. So
Huh.
like they built it. And so just thinking about planning and building is an amazing point. And then like I said, I think what Disney does really well is they play on people's nostalgia and emotions, right? So and then they try to bring what you see on the screen to some type of live format. So whether it's the parks, whether it's going to see a Disney Broadway show, whether it's going on a Disney cruise, which is an interesting fact, by the way, too.
That'd be my worst nightmare.
Did you know that Disney owns an island in the Bahamas and the cruise?
No.
Yeah. Disney. So the cruises, I don't know where they leave from, but like wherever cruises leave from, the ports, Florida. That's it.
Yeah,
They leave from
Florida.
Florida. They'll take you through the Bahamas to their Disney island, which has their hotels and their parks and their themes, all inclusive or whatever, and then back again. So like it would kind of be my nightmare too.
I get very strong cultish vibes from all this whole universe. But I understand that it's for the kids and whatnot. But it gets to the point where it feels like you're almost brainwashing them. It's like, watch the movie. Now we're gonna fly to this place, and you're gonna see the princess and the lion and the beast and the beauty. And so these kids are like, what is real? What is not?
Yeah, totally, 100%. I agree with you.
I don't know. I'm kind of happy that I like to know about it, but I don't think I ever want to step foot in this place after hearing about it.
Are you are you a fan of any kind of theme parks, Universal Studios or anything like that, or is it like theme parks are not really a thing?
No, and I wouldn't want to expose any future children to such things either. I'll be like, it's not real life. This is just capitalism on steroids.
100%. That's going to be the title of our episode, Capitalism on
Well,
Steroids.
it's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever seen, in North Korea, they have these mass games in that stadium.
Yeah.
And when I watch that and then I watch Disney World stuff, it looks the same to me, where they're just dancing all synchronized. Everyone's always smiling, but they're suffering inside.
Yeah.
When I see the very few images I've ever seen of Disney World and Disneyland, there's like the staff are always like happy and smiling, but they're probably getting paid $9 an hour and going home to their cockroach infested apartments.
Disneyland, Disneyland is so expensive. And I'm talking like 2000 something prices. In 2021, the price of tickets is crazy, I'd imagine. Let's Google it right now. How much is a ticket to Disneyland? In 2020, it was one day, one park ticket for an adult was $104. And that's just for an adult. So the kids one would be a little cheaper, but that's for one day. That's crazy, man.
And you have to get there. So you got to like either fly or
you got to get there. You got to get there. If you have kids, parking, you probably can't. I should tell you, parking in Disneyland is insane. The parking lots are like as big as the park. It's crazy parking, man. Like I'm sure there's shuttles and stuff like that, but you gotta walk a long time. You gotta get your good shoes on for Disneyland, man. You gotta walk, and then once you get there, you gotta eat. Food is so overpriced, and of course, like as most corporations, they know that like they don't allow outside food, and once you're in, they know that you gotta eat. So you got to pay $12 for like a pretzel and like $40 for a Coke or whatever it is, So they really get the money out of you. And so, but like I said, though, let's take away the Disneyland aspect of it, but from a business point of view, what a beautiful, wonderful business model.
What a beautiful thing. It's so beautiful.
What a great business model. Like, I'm not dissing Disney in any way. I think as a corporation, it's very fascinating. But adding theme parks to its roster of income generating,
it's a good diversification of revenue generating streams, and they have to factor in the unit cost price and activity based.
Look at these terms! Wow,
I'm just throwing out nonsense. Don't mind me.
What do you think from a logistical point of view? Insane to build and insane to run on a daily basis. You must have thousands of people working, and 1,000 things need to go correctly. One thing goes off. Like, how do you manage all that?
Yeah, I mean, it's the kind of thing that can only really have originated in America, where like there's the land, the money, and the
mentality and the motivation and the ideas,
the wild ambition. And since there's proof of concept there, then they can expand overseas.
But can they though? That's the thing is that because like I know they have, but like, can you imagine when like when they were like, okay, listen, the board like or whatever, they're sitting around at Disney, they're like, listen, Disneyland and Disney World are doing great, or Disneyland's doing great, but people in Hong Kong aren't able to come, so let's build one there. But like you got to go in China. I think they have built one in Shanghai as well, and so or Beijing, whatever. But like, yeah, you can rebuild and duplicate that, but then you got to get people with the same mentality, work ethic, operations, everything needs to operate the same, which I think could be a problem in transition. You know what I mean? Especially something as big as Disney.
Americans are good at that, though. When you
Are
get a
they?
Big Mac in Moscow, it's generally the same as the Big Mac in Washington
Yeah.
D.C. So they're good at replicating these franchise models.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's what they
That's
do.
that's funny. Yeah, we should Disney franchises. That's amazing. I think, by the way, when you go to Disneyland, also, you got to buy souvenirs, and they're crazy expensive. Your kid wants to buy like a, I don't know what you go, like Buzz Lightyear sweater or whatever it is, and this and that, and they're priced. So they really, they've nailed it on every aspect: food, merchandise, rides, luxury, et cetera, movies. So they're they're
Yeah,
they're they're running on all steams. All
there's
steams.
a reason we went camping as kids and took camper vans places. So
Well,
give
that's cool too, man. Like, why not? Right? Like,
you
it's
can't exactly go to nature and go like, "Daddy, Daddy, Mommy, I want
want to go
you
to the
know,
gift shop.
I want a tree branch."
Yeah. So like, I would go to Disneyland again. I'm interested to see how it's updated, but I'd go with the kids, of course. I would also pay extra not to wait in lines anymore
I
because it's fun.
I want to know what like the divorce rate is for the people who got married at Disneyland and those places.
Probably
So
100%.
100%, 100%.
They should stop getting married at Disneyland. But I actually, last year I read Bob Iger's book. I forgot what it's called, but Bob Iger was the last CEO of Disney. He stepped down, and
Hmm.
he talked about working his way up through Disney and like what his day-to-day roles were as CEO. And it's really interesting. Like, it's a really well-oiled machine, and they are, I think, full steam ahead. And so,
Do you have Disney Plus, or are you into that?
my sister has it. To be honest, this whole Netflix, Disney Plus, Amazon Prime, there's too much stuff on TV, and like, I can't watch all of it. I like, my interest in television has gone down pretty big. Like, I used to watch a couple movies a week, and now maybe it's like a movie every 2 weeks if I sit down. Sometimes I'll distress and watch like a show, but like, I don't want to watch like all these like new shows and stuff. It's too hard. It's too much, man. Like, it's
Yeah,
overwhelming.
yeah. I think last year we basically consumed as much media as has been produced by humanity. So we're pretty much done with
Uh,
that stuff.
I got like, I don't know, coming off the Disney topic and stuff. Like, I find that the days are like, there's so much to do, and like, I just don't get, like, there's work, and then family obligations, and then personal obligations, and like, if I get the chance on a weekend, I
Sleep.
might watch something. Yeah, sleep, sleep, read. I'd rather read, right now or something. But yeah, like Disney Plus, this, that. I think they're aiming, like Disney Plus, for example, is pretty much just a knockoff of Netflix, right? Like, I'm sure Netflix was the originator in all this, and now all these other brands have come in. But Disney actually has done a very smart thing with Disney Plus, because they're putting all their media, their TV shows, their movies into one network, right? I think that, by the way, they took off the rights. They took back the rights for most of their products from other streamers, and then put it on their own, right? So like, now, if you go on Disney Plus, you can watch every Disney movie ever, every Star Wars episode and TV show ever, and this and ever. It's like endless loops of content for your consumption, right? So if you've got kids, I guess you could play it on for them. But
Just sit them down on the couch and let Disney parent them until they're adults.
were you the one who told me that on Netflix, if you watched every show on Netflix, it would take you like your entire life or something like that? It would take
Yeah, it's not your entire life. It's
like
so
14 years or
assuming
something.
it's 4 or 5 years. So if you stopped, if they stopped producing anything from like maybe I don't know when the stat started, it was like last year.
Yeah.
It would take you 4 to 5 years of nonstop
Crazy.
watching. So
And
like
that's
24/7.
and that's only based on content now, not based on new content that would have been produced in those 4 to 5
Yeah,
years.
so that stat is like frozen in time from like February 2020 or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's probably not the best use of your time, but why not?
Yeah, but like, one of the let's go put our business hats on again. From the Disney point of view, is they have so much content, both in terms of, obviously, like actual IP, right? Like look at the plethora of movies, stories, characters they own. Like, they can spawn these on forever. That's why when they took off over Lucasfilms, they kept knocking out more Star Wars movies and TV shows and this and that, right? Now there's like, I know I grew up on the original three, right? And then you added the first three, which are kind of garbage. Then you added the original three, which I haven't even watched yet. But now you have like movies in between those timelines, and then TV shows and Mandalorian and this and that. So like, I think one thing Disney does, which I'm not really a big fan of, and I'm sorry, Disney, is that like, they really, and this goes not just to Disney, but to American capitalism, by the way, they really try to squeeze out every single thing out of everything as they can,
Yeah, they don't stop. I mean, there's the British Office, which was originated by Ricky Gervais.
Yeah.
Gervais. What a strange last name for an Englishman.
Yeah.
And they just did like 3 seasons, or if that, maybe 1 season, and
Two.
then
It was 2, and then they finished.
And then so he sold it to the US and taken over, and they did like 12 seasons of it. They just don't stop.
It was 9 seasons of The Office on an.
Wow, you've got all the stats.
I've seen every episode of The Office, so like I know that one well.
It's a great show. It's a good show.
But I agree with you. I think one thing that North Americans do is that we go quantity over quality, and it goes against, I guess, like just producing good content.
Well, like they get it, they have it, and then they just take it too far. Like The Simpsons
money, man.
is beautiful.
Yeah. It's advertising a review.
Of The Simpsons. Now it's still pumping out episodes, and I'm like, what are you doing? Stop.
It was interesting. In the book, if you ever read it, Bob Iger's book, he talks about the negotiations of buying Lucasfilms. And George Lucas actually wanted, so he sold it for he made a good profit on it, but it was his baby, right? He created this entire Star Wars universe and everything, and he was kind of hesitant to sell. And when he did, they kept negotiating. He kept wanting to have like creative rights over the next couple of movies and how it'd go out. And eventually they got to a point where he didn't take those rights, and he actually wasn't happy with some of the newer movies that came out, especially where the characters went and the stories went, because Disney took over and they made their own stories, and that's not what Lucas had envisioned for it. But I mean, that said his life, like that is life, right? Like, he made a profit, he kind of handed it over. But that just goes to the aspect of Disney, and just kind of really, I guess I would get my bet, and this isn't on any substantial fact, is that they probably created a storyline in which they could produce more stories and more counter things, right? And so, this is the way business goes. And I understand that you got to create money for your shareholders, you got to grow the business, you got to go do this and that. But it's a huge conglomerate to manage. It would be, I would compare Disney to in the show Succession, their company Waystar Rocco or whatever it's called, an entertainment brand, sort of like that, because Disney they own a bunch of smaller corporations, they own a bunch of things, and it's a huge behemoth to manage, but it's growing. And they say that once COVID comes back, once COVID goes away and normality comes back, Disney will just be like ready for the running. Like the parks will open, all these movies will come out. So
yeah, they've been working on a sequel to Titanic for a few years now.
Yeah, the ship comes back up, right? And but that's Disneyland. I hope people enjoyed. We'd love to have comments if people went to Disneyland. If Dave ever goes, we'll video cast it.
Yet another live location for post-pandemic. Super respectable.
Anyways, Dave, I hope you guys have fun in whatever you're doing in life. I hope you get a haircut. I hope that makes you happy.
I think a haircut would make everybody happy, so I'll do my best.
Yeah. But I'll see you next week. Stay safe.
Yeah, thanks, Tosh.
C'est la vie.
Adios.